Tara, do we get RSVPs from committee members? Like, do we know if the people who are here are
I
coming?
do. Like, I get the when they accept the meeting invite. And we are live right now, just so you know.
Anne Marie said she was going to try to make it. She's in the meeting right now, but
oh, here's Al. We should have quorum. Yeah, we have.
Okay, perfect. We'll give Al just 1 second to connect, and then we'll get going. All right. Let's call this meeting to order. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. First, I'd like to quickly acknowledge that at least myself, I'm gathered on the territory of the Anishinaabe people, and that's including the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations, who are known as the Three Fires Confederacy. I think it's particularly important that on this committee we recognize that, as Indigenous peoples have been the stewards of this land for millennia, and respect that and recognize the harms that colonialism has caused and how we can work together to make sure we achieve reconciliation. So starting off, we do have a presentation from the Development Services Department on the city's draft new official plan and the city-wide urban design guidelines. So I will pass it off to Kathy Seggett to do her presentation. Hi, Kathy.
Good morning. Thanks, Councillor Aylwin, and good morning, everyone. I am going to attempt to share my screen here in just a second to bring the presentation up. I did warn Tara a moment ago that I was having internet connection problems this morning, so I do apologize if it stalls on us. I will try to rectify it as we go. Let's pull this up here. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to figure out. I had the same problem yesterday. Sorry, I'm just trying to get what it is that I'm actually trying to share here. I'm assuming you can see my whole screen, and all I want you to be able to look at, if I can bring up the slides only.
Oh, because you have your notes in your presentation. Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah,
where you
here
can
it
see
goes.
your notes and
Maybe this video settings.
From beginning?
Yeah,
I've tried that. It's had this issue yesterday, and I figured it out after the fact. I apologize for this delay, folks.
So where it says use presenter view, I would assume that under the monitor drop box there, you could probably have presenter view on your screen and then just the slideshow. You might want to check the box and then the drop box above it. I think if that's what you're trying to do, would show presentation on primary monitor. So it doesn't give you the option of putting it on there.
Kathy, I can just
top left button where it says from beginning.
Yeah,
right, but I think she's trying to get her notes at the same time.
No, it's okay. I'm not going to worry about the notes, but this is what happened to me yesterday. I had the slideshow up and it's so small, and I apologize. Display settings. Here we go.
Oh, maybe then you do want to turn off.
There. Is that it?
Mode. Okay, there you go.
That works. Okay, there we go. Okay, sorry about that delay, everybody. Anyways, thanks for the opportunity to make a quick presentation. We're doing our best to do some outreach to each of the advisory committees and other groups in the community. So I really appreciate the opportunity to come to this committee this morning. I'm going to just spend just hopefully a few minutes going over a bit of background on the official plan, just to give you a bit of an understanding or appreciation of the outline. And basically, I'd like to focus largely on the policy sections, some of the maps in the document that will help you in undertaking your review as committee members, the areas of interest that you would have. I'll talk very briefly about kind of the path forward or next steps, and then I can certainly entertain some questions. So just for everybody's benefit, obviously the purpose of an official plan is really to set out that long range land use planning framework. It sets out a vision for the community as to how we'll develop over time. This particular plan is looking ahead to the year 2041. And really, we're trying to reflect the vision, reflect the community's interests and whatnot that we heard during the early days of consultation, which really this started 2 years ago. Some of you may recall we were out in the community at that time talking with people about, what their vision of Barrie is for the future. So on September 24th, we released both the draft new official plan and a draft citywide urban design guidelines, which is meant to be kind of a compendium document to the official plan. And it will act as a bit of an implementation tool. And really, it's the first opportunity the city has had to pull everything together under one document, whereas right now we have a number of different discrete urban design guidelines. So we felt it important to have one kind of a one-stop shop. So the official plan is out for public consultation and review. We have a deadline of December 22nd for receiving comments. So hopefully the committee is aware of that, and you can kind of bear that in mind as you're potentially looking to put together some comments to submit to us. This image is really, it's come about through that consultation that we went through in early days and kind of reflected upon what people felt as really important concepts, really important themes that we address in the new official plan. And what it's also meant to try to do is reflect the fact that all of this in planning a city and planning for the future, there are many integrated kind of concepts here and interrelated concepts that we have to address in the official plan. And you'll see at the heart of this image is planning for an urban and complete city. We believe that the future of Barrie is really as a mid-sized city. So we're going to be maturing in terms of how urban and how complete we look over time. And with that, we've also then in this image reflected all of the other themes that we felt came about through the consultation efforts and really became the chapter themes or the section themes of the new official plan. So at the heart of this is planning an urban and complete city, but we can't achieve that without also accomplishing many of these other interconnected themes. So for example, planning for a connected and mobile city, planning for a waterfront and green city, planning an attractive city, a cultural city, resilient city, and a prosperous city. So each of those themes ended up becoming the chapters or the sections of the new official plan. We've got maps that coincide with each of those. And the policy basis is really there to explore how the city looks to be able to achieve this as we plan and make decisions over the next 20 to 30 years as the city grows and matures. So before I step into talking about any of the particular sections, I did want to just spend a couple of minutes in looking at a few of the key maps, because I think it's important that you gain a bit of an understanding of kind of the structure of the official plan insofar as kind of the backbone or the basis of the vision and how we've portrayed that on our mapping. And then you'll see how that then translates into some of these sections or themes that I just spoke about. So the image on the left here, this is map 1 in our proposed new official plan, and it's entitled a community structure map. And really what it's meant to reflect is the kind of, if you think about it as a person, it's kind of that backbone or the spine and the skeletal framework of, you know, kind of this person, this city maturing over time. So you'll kind of see the spines here of, you know, the colored areas really start to reflect where we are intending to focus, where growth and development will largely take place. And we've identified these various community elements in these various colors, but they're essentially the building blocks of the community as we mature and as we go forward. So you'll see in this yellow color, for example, the urban growth center, these other kind of orangey yellow colors being areas that we've identified and called them as strategic growth areas. And those are really where we can expect to see the most amount of change over time, the highest concentrations of new types of development, taller built form, you know, medium and high rise buildings, that sort of thing. And then in the purple areas, these are really reflective of areas in the city that we are protecting for employment uses, largely ensuring that we have enough land set aside for industrial type uses that cannot be placed in close proximity to more sensitive land uses or residential, largely in that regard. And then as well, the green is, of course, of another strategic importance in terms of building blocks of the community. We are blessed in the city of Barrie with a beautiful natural heritage system and links or linked open space areas. And then obviously the waterfront and our beautiful natural feature here of Lake Simcoe. So we are using that map really as the skeletal framework of the vision of Barrie as we grow and mature over the next 20 and plus years. Then the image on the right is map number 2 in the plan, and it's reflecting the land use designations. So many of you that may have been involved in planning discussions in the past, you recognize that when a developer is looking to propose something in the city, they first have to kind of consider whether or not what they're proposing lines up with the current land use designation. And we felt it was important to have this sort of structure in the new official plan. So we've got the map on the left, which kind of sets out where we expect to see the most amount of change. Then if you look at the image on the right, you'll see that many of those colored areas are reflective of the areas I pointed out on the left. And we have far fewer land use designations that we are proposing in the new plan in comparison to the current official plan. And that was done by design. We felt that it was really important in terms of accomplishing or achieving that vision of the future to really emphasize and provide opportunity for a mix of land uses to evolve in most of our areas across the city, save and except the pure employment areas where we must protect those for industrial type uses, that sort of thing. But any of these areas that are colored, other than the yellow, you will see and expect to see change in those areas over time. And that's really reflective of where we're suggesting that it makes sense to kind of focus new growth, higher density types of development, and really encourage not just the type of use that is there today. So for example, up on Bayfield Street, we've got some sites here identified as commercial district. They may be today primarily retail. However, in the new official plan, we are proposing that they have real opportunity for further development and intensification and introducing additional uses there, all with the focus really, or the intent of trying to promote overall a more compact, a more walkable and sustainable community. So if you can introduce areas across the city in close proximity to residential and other uses, you have the opportunity then to see where people can make choices as to where they'd like to live, perhaps in closer proximity to where they work and where they can achieve many of the things that within a close distance for, you know, their daily and weekly needs. And that was really what we were striving for in introducing this kind of match of, based on our vision, how that translates on the ground in terms of permitted uses in the land use designations, and identifying where those concentrations of higher built form and real mixed concentrations of uses will be. And then across all of the yellow, which is very prevalent, that is called the neighborhood area designation. And what we've done is we've kind of flattened the current designations. So you're not going to see 5 different residential land use categories, for example. We flattened that and basically said yellow is neighborhood area. And neighborhood area allows residential, but it also allows a bunch of other things. So really what it does is presents opportunity for the market to come in and respond to this. And hopefully over time, we will see that maturing of these areas where we introduce these other types of uses that in many cases, some of these more suburban areas, the neighborhood areas, are largely void of other uses other than just single detached residential units. So the hope here is that the market will respond over time, that as redevelopment opportunities come about, you'll see more of a mix of land uses taking shape and making it far more sustainable and walkable. Then the other set of maps I just wanted to quickly touch on is the one on the left is map 4, which is the mobility network. And really what we're emphasizing there is not so much the roads, although they're very prevalent. This is in fact looking at the ultimate mobility structure. And what we've integrated into that are the cycling and multi-use trails. And so it's really hard to see on the screen, but I did want to just point it out to this committee so that you have that opportunity to basically have a look at that as you're reviewing your the mapping and the policies, and basically focus on the fact that you can see not only are we planning for roads, but indeed we are really trying to emphasize the fact that there are active transportation options that are being offered. Then the map on the right here is the open space network. And if again, you'll have to look at it, you know, in a larger format. But if you kind of pay attention to where we're proposing some of the cycling infrastructure and multi-use trails, they link very closely with the open space network and whatnot. And so we're really trying to promote that as opportunities for connections through the community. So just very quickly on the urban design piece, I'm not an urban design planner, but I just wanted one quick slide in here just for everybody's benefit. Really what we're again trying to do, as I mentioned, is provide for a one-stop shop for the development community to be able to not only look at what's laid out in the official plan in terms of requirements from an urban design standpoint, but really work with this particular document as a compendium or implementation tool so that they can get a better appreciation for exactly what it is we're looking for in terms of the design of new neighborhoods, new communities within the overall city, but also redevelopment opportunities and how to basically address those in the context of where that particular property is located and transition or adjacency and you know, considerations to the adjacent land uses and that sort of thing. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but I did just want to kind of note that we've identified specific principles, urban design principles, and really looking to ensure that development steps up in terms of trying to achieve good design in this regard. So the next couple of slides, I'll just quickly go through, and this is really where I wanted to focus your attention as a committee in terms of where you might look to spend the majority of your attention or time in reviewing the document. Recognizing the document is 250 some odd pages, that's very daunting. And it can be complex to try to kind of dissect what should I focus on. So really I see from an active transportation standpoint, there are 4 sections of the draft official plan that I think the committee might want to look at. And those are sections 2, 3, 4, and 5. Section 2 is, again, largely related to those first two maps that I showed you. So it explores and further explains the community structure, kind of that skeletal framework, the building blocks of the vision where we see the community developing and maturing over time. And then it also explores the growth management strategy based on the direction from council that we received last fall and how we are looking to accommodate the growth of both population and jobs, and ensuring that we are planning for more compact, walkable, and connected communities. And then further in that section, it goes into the details around the land use designations that I just spoke about a moment ago on that second map. So again, that's all contained in section 2 under the urban and complete section of the plan. Section 3 is entitled Attractive City. And that's really where we explore that notion of what are we expecting in terms of good urban design? How are we going to make the city of Barrie memorable and attractive for years to come? And it sets out those urban design principles that we're looking to achieve and ensure that we are planning for these complete neighborhoods and connected streets and connecting components across the city. Section 4 is the connected and mobile city. And this is really where we get into talking about transportation, public transit, planning for complete streets, ensuring that we are planning to accommodate everybody in terms of the use of streets. So not just for private automobiles. We obviously want to encourage cycling. We want to encourage pedestrian use and that sort of thing. So again, we've detailed in there what our expectations are in terms of complete streets, what the streetscape will look like, how we're planning to try to achieve things such that all users feel safe and that sort of thing. And again, really promoting the active transportation options that really, we're trying to emphasize in this new plan. And then chapter 5 is really looking at the, I'm gapping for a second here. Sorry, chapter 5 is, see, I don't have my notes out. Waterfront and green, obviously. So again, the emphasis there, as I pointed out, we've got a beautiful waterfront. We've got many connections to the waterfront. We're trying to enhance those. We're obviously also trying to protect our natural heritage areas and features and enhance those as much as possible, integrate those into the community, protect them as necessary, but also allow for opportunity to explore those if and when appropriate. And so our parks and open spaces are explored in that section of the plan. Then just quickly under the sustainability heading, there would be largely 3 areas again that I would suggest that you would focus on. Within the attractive city section, chapter 3 of the plan, there's a section in there, section 3.3.4, that speaks about planning with sustainable and resilient design in mind. And there's elements there explored from more of an urban design standpoint as to just what it is we're looking at. And again, trying to get some feedback on this, recognizing this is a first draft of a new official plan. And we are hearing from a number of people where they're questioning some of these policies, questioning, the detail and whatnot. But that's why we're out there now getting this feedback. We're looking for people to explore these, try to understand them and give us feedback on this. Section 5 and section 6, again, I just mentioned section 5 from a waterfront and green city perspective. Again, exploring the sustainability of our environment and the use of those features, but exploring, have we covered things appropriately? Have we protected for Lake Simcoe and the tributaries? All of that. And then largely under section 6, where we explore planning a resilient city, that's where we're looking at the 3 spheres here of not only societal resiliency, but also from an economic standpoint, as well as the environmental. So that entire section of the new official plan describes in a fair bit of detail each of those areas and has policies related to that sphere or theme of sustainability. I felt it was important to simply attention to that as another important chapter in the official plan. So one more quick slide, which is really just a summary of where we're at in the process and where we're headed. As I mentioned, the deadline for commenting is December 22nd. And we anticipate once we've received comments through this 90-day review period, staff will be spending a good probably 2 months or more in reviewing and discussing, making any edits to the documents as necessary, in the hopes that we will prepare kind of a draft 2 of the document. And we will be looking to release that and bring that back to meet our statutory milestone in accordance with the Planning Act. And what that will mean is we are hopeful that sometime in the spring of next year, we will be back in front of Planning Committee. We will have released the document again for public review at a public open house in advance of a public meeting. So many of you are probably familiar with the term of a public meeting, or maybe you've attended some. That's really where council gets the opportunity to hear from the community directly. What is it about the plan they like, dislike, they want to advise, changes are necessary, that sort of thing. So again, it's another check-in point in the process to ensure that we get the feedback from the community, and staff will give consideration then to that feedback and determine again if there are needs for any changes. And that's why I've indicated here with a fall of 2021 potential adoption date. We'd be looking to bring back the document to council, basically with staff recommendations saying we believe this is the document that is reflective of the community and council's vision and wishes. So we would ask council to adopt the document, and then it goes to the province as the approval authority, and they go through their review of the document. They are currently reviewing the draft 1 of the document and going to be providing us with extensive feedback. But they will then receive it because they are the approval authority of the new official plan for the city. And we would anticipate then 4 or 5 months later that we would hopefully have an approval from the ministry. So that might take us into very early 2022. All the while, we're going to be starting up on some work on the zoning bylaw, which really is that implementation tool for an official plan. The current zoning bylaw of the city is way out of date, and so it would not make any sense to lag behind in a review and an update of the zoning bylaw. If we have a new vision, a new official plan, we need that tool, which is the zoning bylaw, to be able to implement that vision. We need it updated and married with the new vision of the new official plan. So what we've been suggesting to many of the committees we've been out to talk with is that if you're able to strike a bit of a working group amongst your committee members to see if you're able to tackle this together, because as I mentioned, it's a daunting task to look at a 250-page document. If you're not really familiar with doing that, you may want to dissect it into pieces and have a few people work together to try to pull out your comments and then provide us with some written comments by the December 22nd deadline. And that was about it. I just wanted to thank you, pardon me, for the opportunity to come today, and I'm happy to take any questions if you've got any at this time.
Thanks so much, Kathy. Very informative. So if there are questions from committee members, just raise your virtual hand or your real hand, and I'll call on you. Any questions from committee members at this time? Not seeing any.
Kevin, Keenan?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
It's a detail one, but I have been reading some of your document, Kathy, and I could not find anywhere a definition that told me what the difference between a low-rise and a mid-rise building was. You've got a definition section at the back of the official plan, but it's not there, and I haven't run into it in the text yet. Can you help me out on that one?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Al. Great question, Al. Largely, we don't have a definition of those. Largely, we would rely upon the detail in the land use designation and under the development standards in terms of what built form is allowed, and then the height. So we explore that in terms of, minimum or maximum heights based on those designations and then the built form is kind of embedded in that. Hopefully that helps.
So there isn't actually any, because I think it makes a difference whether it's 2 stories, 4 stories, 6 stories, 8 stories, particularly where you're talking about compatibility with existing residential neighborhoods. So I was looking for some help there, but I don't think I found any yet.
Yeah. Again, I think if you go into this section, the land use designation section, you'll be able to see under each of those where we've talked about kind of for example, in the neighborhood area, the maximum height would be 3 stories, except if you're out fronting onto a collector or arterial road or an intensification corridor, there's opportunity to go a bit higher. And then in the other, the medium density and high density categories, for example, we talk about kind of mid-rise and high-rise buildings, and the heights are described in there in terms of, up to, I think it's 12 stories and then above 12 stories.
Yeah, well, that was not trying to extend the debate, because I can probably talk to you about this one individually, but it just seems to me that there's a lot of range in there, and what I would be interested in, particularly given the situations that seem to be happening where there is development proposed near existing stable residential areas, that it seems to be a very sticky issue for a lot of Barrie residents, and I think that's an area where either more rules, more guidance, or more. I think what really needs is more thought about what's really compatible. And when I see some of the things that have been going through the committee of adjustment on this stuff, it just makes me shake my head. So I won't say any more on that issue, but thank you.
Thanks, Al. Okay, so I do see Sherry's hand, and then after I have Eric Jacoby Hawkins. So go ahead, Sherry.
Hi, Kathy. Thank you very much for the presentation. That was great. And to you and your team for all the work that you've put into this. I'm sure it's been a tremendous amount of work over the last couple of years, and I've attended some of those public consultation meetings, and you've done a really creative job with all of this. Our health unit has a review team in place for the official plan, and we're just finalizing our review. I have gone through the entire 250 pages myself, which was, you're right, daunting, but I was so impressed and thoroughly amazed at how you've pulled this together in such a comprehensive way. We have some feedback that we'll be submitting to you. And our review team has had some challenges with some staffing because of COVID redeployment, but we've done our best, and we will be submitting that to you. And I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity. And I'm willing to also participate in a small group of this group to look at some particular active transportation and sustainability pieces as well, and can draw on what our review team has put together for feedback as well. So thank you.
That's awesome, Sherry. Thank you so much. All right, Eric. You're on mute in case you were speaking to us.
There we go. My computer froze up. The 22nd December is the first that feedback deadline, but then there's also a few months on the public information and public meeting stages, and I assume there's another opportunity for the public to have questions and then further feedback or input at that stage.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Eric, yes, certainly there will be. What we are trying to emphasize at this stage of the game is it's now a 90-day review period. When we released the document on September 24th, we were giving a full 3 months of review, whereas when we go to release draft 2 of the document sometime in the spring in preparation for the public meeting, we, under the Planning Act, are only obligated to release it, I think, 20 days in advance of the public meetings. So 20 days in comparison to 90 days is not a lot. So that's why we're really trying to push the focus now on giving us as much feedback as you can at this stage, because the second go around, you'll have fewer days to be able to review it and focus and prepare any further submissions to us. Our hope would be that we would have ourselves organized and be able to advertise for the public meeting and release the document more than 20 days out, but that is the minimum required under the Planning Act. So it'll really depend on what our key milestones are that we're striving for in trying to meet those deadlines and provide as much lead time as we can.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. Any more questions from committee members? John, go ahead.
Thanks, Kian, and thanks, Kathy, for the presentation. One thing I just want to kind of start off with is that I really like the wording for prioritization of certain active transportation. You have kind of laid out what the levels are you're prioritizing, and I think that's a great direction to take, and I'm glad to see that in there. The other part I had a question about was, we know now that in building new communities that a local commercial node or local areas surrounded by residential provides a better ability for active transportation to walk to local amenities. There's a lot of the existing Barrie area doesn't have necessarily that built into it right now. Is this the document that we should be prescribing that in, or do you feel like it's achieving that, or is that just kind of left to the development community to build up, identify a node and build up intensity around that, density around that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to John, another great question. And yeah, you've kind of picked up on something that we are trying to promote in the design of the new official plan, both that community structure map, as well as then the land use designations, as I mentioned. Really what we're trying to achieve through that is the flexibility and the opportunity, quite frankly, to be able to see some changes take place in some of these areas, including the more mature kind of established neighborhoods that maybe don't have neighborhood stores or little plazas or whatnot, or maybe they do and they're not being well utilized. There's really opportunity for redevelopment there and enhancing kind of the mix of uses that might be on that property. So really what we're trying to provide, I guess, in the description and the policy framework is opportunity, rather than being prescriptive where the city goes in and individually highlights where we think on every little corner that we would want to promote something. We are simply saying more broadly, we're promoting the concept of more compact, walkable, complete neighborhoods. And with that, people are going to start to demand that things are in close proximity. And if you get more density happening, especially in those areas that I pointed out where there was that color, the strategic growth areas, so you've got the concentrations of higher built forms, more mix of uses. Hopefully they are in closer proximity than to some of the other lower density neighborhoods, for example. But you're starting to see then where people don't have to rely on their private automobile to get from point A to point B to go and pick up a jug of milk or something. They can kind of walk or cycle to a store that's in closer proximity. So that's really what we were trying to achieve without being too prescriptive going in, as I say, and picking out where we thought the market might then pick up on retail opportunities or that sort of thing. Hopefully that's answered your question.
Great, thank you. Yes.
All right. Do we have any more questions? Seeing none. So Sherry has expressed interest in being on sort of a working group to look at the draft official plan. Keeping in mind we don't have a December meeting of this committee, and comments need to be submitted by December 22nd, ideally. So I'm thinking maybe we can have a small working group get together before the 22nd, and then maybe circulate those comments by email to the committee members, maybe a week in advance of the submission deadline, so that we can get that in. How does everyone feel about that strategy? Sound good? Do we have any other committee members who are interested in helping Sherry out with that review?
My
Just
hand
John.
is up. My
Okay.
hand's up, Keenan.
Awesome. So we have John and Al. Perfect.
Hey,
Thank you so
I'd
much.
be happy to take a look as well.
Tyler as well. Okay, great. Sherry, is it possible that I can leave that with you to arrange that meeting with John, Al, Tyler, and yourself to discuss the OP and write some comments?
Yes. Yeah, I'll organize a meeting for us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And let me know if you need anything at all. And let me know when you're meeting, because I might be able to attend as well.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. Thanks again, Kathy. I'll check one more time if there are any more questions from committee members. All good. Okay. Thanks, Kathy. And
Thank
have
you
a
so
great
much.
day, and I'm sure
going
we'll
to
see you
sign off.
around.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Keenan, can Tara circulate Kathy's slide deck to the committee members?
Sure. Tara, can we do that? Sure, it's fine. We'll get on that.
Sorry, I kept trying to unmute it. Yeah, of course. I will post it to the website as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so up next, we've got the Just Recovery Simcoe item, and that was put on by Al. So I'll give the floor to Al to introduce that concept.
Thank you, Keenan. I'm hoping that having sent some of the, a bit of materials to you, which included some links, that committee members have had a chance to not only read my my blog about why it's a critical path forward from the perspective of naturalists and in general and nature berry in particular, but I'm hoping you've had a chance to go, to dig a little further and follow up on some of those links and look at some more of the details that are involved. Just by way of introduction, just recovery is a concept that I think many of you will already be familiar with, at least to some extent. It's developed sort of organically in many jurisdictions and countries as thoughtful citizens, like the people involved in this Zoom call, and governments ponder how to rebuild the future society, economy, and environmental protection as we gradually emerge from this crisis, which is the COVID-19 pandemic, and face the equally daunting challenges of climate change and species extinctions. So elements of the just recovery concept, show up in a variety of forms. There's been a lot of talk in the United States in Europe about a Green New Deal. Another phrase is a green and just recovery, that at various levels of from various levels of government and various non-governmental organizations in Canada and around the world. Now, because Barrie is the major population center and the designated urban growth center of Simcoe County, we have an incredible opportunity, I believe, to lead our region to a much more sustainable future. And not to be a Cassandra, but hey, if it ain't a lot more sustainable, it ain't going to be a future. On reviewing the more detailed material that is on the JRS website, and I was looking at it again this morning, there's a lot of nice pull down sort of list. You click on this and it gives you about 4 or 5 points that you can sort of that sort of expand on the 3 pillars of investing in people, investing in nature, and investing in the community. What struck me was that many of the actions that I think are underway or planned to happen in Barrie do fit rather nicely into the Just Recovery Simcoe framework. So it's not to suggest that, hey, we've got it all aced and we can wind up the meeting and go home and have a, well, we are home actually. But I think the city is already on track in a number of areas to do make these moves forward. So I'd really like to hear opinions on this from the committee members and start an ongoing discussion of how we can move forward on what I think we probably all agree is a pretty essential agenda. And I'll leave you with one final thought. Anybody who's, well, I don't know if there's anybody in the room that's as antique as I am now, but there was a very well-known U.S. Political cartoonist back in I guess he must have started in the 40s, but 40s, 50s, 60s, who showed up in the Canadian newspapers like the Toronto Star Weekly. Walt Kelly, who had a cartoon strip called Pogo about a possum and his various animal colleagues that lived in the Okefenokee Swamp in Florida. And Pogo was quite a philosopher. And a couple of his favorite good lines I will just share with you. The first is, we are confronted with insurmountable opportunities. And the second is, in case anybody thinks this is going to be fast and easy, from here on down, it's uphill all the way. So with that, Keenan, I will encourage other members of the committee to share their thoughts on this idea.
That's great. Thank you, Al. So I don't know if everyone's had a chance to check out the Just Recovery Simcoe website, but it does outline sort of their statement of principles under a couple of broad categories: invest in people, invest in nature, invest in communities. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions about that initiative? I know there's an opportunity to go on and sign as individuals. Does anyone think it's a good idea for us to maybe explore opportunities for the committee to get involved? Any thoughts? At the very least, I think we could all go and sign as individuals. I think that would be an awesome way to support their work. All right, not seeing any hands. Al, did you have any other thoughts on how maybe we can support their work, or did you have an idea of how, as a committee, anything we could do to support Just Recovery?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is something that the AT&S committee could. We've been scooped for the next month already by Kathy Suggett 5 minutes ago, but in terms of getting some comments together on that. But I think with the assistance of the committee, any interested committee members, and assistance if we're not sure about some of the things, in terms of from staff who are here to help us sort of look at those principles. And as I say, you can go through them in 15 or 20 minutes. It's not 250 pages, folks, but we can look at. I would suggest we look at what the city is doing, and try and identify the elements that fit into these principles, And that, I think, gives us a good framework for saying, so what else? What next? Because I have to say, I was encouraged when I read through some of these things, and I could think just off the top of my head about some particular elements that the city was doing already that fit into this. And I think it's so important that we lead up here. There are a lot of municipalities in Simcoe County, but as we know, some of them, even the ones very close by, tend to not talk to us sometimes. I think, you know, we need to show how we're following this kind of rethinking of our approach. That's quite simply, you know, we can't keep on. I'm not worried about myself because, you know, hell, 30 years from now, I'm probably going to be dead. It might be sooner than that. But, you know, I've got a couple of kids and I've got 3 grandkids, and I'd like to have them to have something, you know, even reasonably and approximating the kind of life opportunities that, you know, that I've had. And I think that needs more being done than what's been done in my lifetime.
All right, so I see Sherry's hand. Go ahead, Sherry.
Thank you. Al, do you feel that the small group, not that we haven't got enough to read with the official plan as it is, but I'm wondering if there's an opportune time here to look at the principles in the Just Recovery Plan and compare them with some of the sustainability sort of policy statements in the official plan when that small group gets together. I'm wondering if we can sort of also take a look at this from that land use planning perspective as well.
I think that would be it. It's more to do within Kathy's constrained time frame. However, knowing how the planning policy works, I think if we had more to, if we looked at some stuff and sent some comments and said, hey, we're still looking and we'll have some more to you, you know, I don't know, by mid-January or something like that. The December 22nd isn't in my experience with the planning process, I don't think is necessarily a put up or shut up date. But you have to give people a deadline or they're never gonna get it back to you. So I think we would still have the opportunity to do that, and that could be a very useful way to pursue it. Thanks for the suggestion, Sherry.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds like an awesome suggestion. So sounds like the working group can sort of take those principles into account when doing the review of the official plan. Official plan is, you know, a very forward-looking document, looking, you know, a decade and more out. So definitely the time to get those sort of principles in the policy. Any other comments or questions on the Just Recovery Simcoe item? Going once, going twice. All right, thanks for that, Al. And up next, we do have another item from Al, which is an update on the Allendale Station Park Naturalization Plan. Al, take it away.
Yeah, my apologies because I've been busy with a variety of things, one of which has been trying to read my way through that. I can take about an hour a day on the official plan, and then my head starts to glaze. And I apologize to Kevin Rankin because I had, you know, tried to leave a message for him to talk to me about this. What I was mainly looking for here, and unfortunately Kevin wasn't able to get back to me on 24 hours notice. Oh, you varlet, you. But he's smiling, so that's okay. But I was hoping, I know that because of COVID, there hasn't been anything happening on the on the side of the community groups who were involved in the thing, but I didn't know, and I was trying to find out, maybe Kevin can shed a little light for us, if there's been anything further done on that this year from the city's perspective. And since Andy Pellin is also here, whether she has any comments to sort of offer on that, because Living Green was one of the one of the participants in the thing, and I know they have been trying to proceed with stuff. So maybe that would be helpful for us to know, just if there's anything much be happening. I think we're going to have to go, sort of regroup a little and just say, okay, how are we coming out of the box we're in now, and so then what are our next steps on that? So Kevin, can you shed any light for this?
Go ahead.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair, back to Al. First, I did leave you a voicemail message on your phone. You probably didn't get it, I guess. Yeah, we did the forest health assessment for the Allendale Station Park area, including the forested area and the natural area outside of it. And since our last meeting, that would have been probably the only thing that we've got accomplished and fired through. But as far as the previous information we got from the naturalization tall grass prairie restoration group, that information is still available as well. So just a matter of deciding where and what we want to do in those areas. There is a little bit of invasive species in there to deal with, and some minor tree health work, but other than that, the progress can continue. As soon as you want to set up another subcommittee or working group meeting, we can roll with it.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Kevin. And I see in the chat that Andy's saying there's been no motion from Living Green on this. Al, anything else you wanted to touch on, or any questions from committee members?
I guess it's just one of those things that's been stalled by COVID, and so that's why I had it on the agenda for the previous meeting, but we ran out of time on that one. So just keep it in the minds of the committee. I'll touch base with Kevin and see, he and I can probably chat a little bit about how we move forward, and whether this whether the best approach is to sort of kickstart that subcommittee we had on the thing. And certainly I know Living Green was was one of the key components of that. I can tell you, I mean, Nature Berry hasn't had any. We canceled our outings, we canceled our official meetings, all with due respect to the public health advisories coming from people who toil far too many hours on this stuff, like Sherry. So we'll see if we can get that one re-energized.
Great. Thank you, Al. All right. If there are no other comments or questions on that item, we will move on to the next one. So that's the committee work plan. So I don't know if everyone had a chance to review the document that Tara sent out. It was all the recommendations that we've passed as a committee and sort of the status of those motions. And now I'm not really sure how we want to proceed with this. I have to admit, I was going to do a bit of work to get some material together for this, and I haven't done that. But is there a desire from the committee, to even have a formal work plan? I know we had worked on one before, and it was pretty ambitious but broad. What do we think? How do we want to approach this? I mean, I see it's kind of working on an ad hoc basis at this point, where we just come up with items month to month, and that seems to be working. But I don't know if there were other thoughts. Eric Jacoby Hawkins, was that a new hand or an old hand?
New hand. Sort of a ancillary to this topic and the just recovery process. On the list of the initiatives going forward, I didn't see anything about the local improvement charge query, and I was wondering what the status was of that and if that had come back, because I think that's something that we could work on as a committee to help get that going. It would fit really well with the just recovery and climate particular issues of that. I'm just wondering if we can get that back into our work plan, or where we had left that, as it were.
Right, and I'm trying to remember if we had passed a motion on that formally. I remember we had Adam, who's in charge of sort of the energy management for the city, speak to us about it. We do have the community energy and greenhouse gas reduction stakeholder advisory group has been meeting to work on that community energy plan and greenhouse gas reduction plan. And it is something that has come up at least once in that group as a potential way to reduce emissions, as use local improvement charges as a mechanism to do so. Maybe so, Eric, would you like us to have that as a formal item, maybe in the January meeting, and we can invite Adam to come and talk about the status of that energy plan and GHG reduction plan?
Yeah, and actually that you mentioned, I wonder if we should set up a formal liaison if we don't have one already between that other committee and this one, or the other advisory. I'm not sure what the status of the other committee is.
Yeah, for sure. And I see Wilf's hand. Wilf and I both sit on that group. Wilf, did you have something to add?
Yeah, good morning, Keenan. Thanks. Let me know if this is an appropriate time. I wanted to speak to the perhaps urgency of some of what we're talking about in implementing active and sustainable transportation, and just give color, I guess, those discussions in the future for this group. Is this a good time to talk to that, Keenan? Or
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Sure. So just and you're talking about a work plan, and I think it colors just about everything that ends up in a work plan. And we just spoke to the official plan being a 10-year plus document, and so I wanted to just kind of raise 3 points that have been recent news in the transportation space to just color how urgent it is that we have the discussions we're having, and that we recognize how quickly the space is moving and what this community might look like in 10 years. And I think it might end up looking a lot different than most of us think right now. So I'll just highlight a couple of recent points in the news and why they might be relevant. So England has just passed a new regulation that 9 years from now, the sale of gas cars will be outlawed. In 9 years, you will not be able to buy a gas or diesel vehicle in England. Like that, I think most people on this call, most people in the public would just be in disbelief that that's happening. And England's not alone. Israel is on board. A lot of European countries are on board. I think we're about to see some significant changes in that direction in the United States with the new election, or their new president, and together with that, a couple of other announcements. Not just this shift away from fossil fuels to new types of transportation, particularly electric and active transportation. Close to home, Loblaws has just released a pilot program, which is on the roads, or about to be on the roads right now. They call them their mid-mile delivery vehicles. So not the to consumer, but from depot to the stores. They're launching a pilot that's hitting the roads in Ontario right now that is fully autonomous. The vehicles will be driverless. So again, when we read the mass media and we think about what does the future of transportation look like, and we hear about Tesla's autopilot, that sort of thing, and there's a lot of predictor, or a lot of press saying, well, that's 10 years away, that's 15 years away. What I want to say is that's here now. And just another layer on top of that, Tesla's full self-driving is on the road right now. You can buy a vehicle and enter an address somewhere in North America and take your hands off, and it will take you there. It will see dogs, it will see pedestrians and stoplights, it will drive on its own. And the reason that all of this is relevant is the mix of vehicles on the road is about to change significantly and much faster than we realize. So whereas right now we're looking at a model where predominantly vehicles are owned, and I think that's going to change when vehicles are fully autonomous. If you picture the Uber model without the driver, and without the driver, the cost of operating a vehicle is unbelievably low. And when that vehicle is electric, it's even lower. We're going to have we're just going to have a very different transportation model that has fewer cars, that have more service miles on them every year, that make transportation accessible to more people. And I think we also need to consider just where last mile transportation, active transportation fits into that model. When you have door-to-door transportation available as an app on your phone, so transportation as a service, we need to contemplate that in what this city looks like in the future and what transportation looks like. And another reality to keep in mind, and I'll stop there, I guess, is that driverless, fully autonomous transportation that's electric based is significantly less expensive per kilometer to operate than mass transit. So while mass transit is going to be an important link between cities, the probability that we'll see buses running around Barrie in 10 years is increasingly less as we move so quickly towards the technology that has been so futuristic for the past many years and is here now. So anyway, just I guess the underlying concept there is there is some urgency to the discussions we're having and some importance to recognizing that the timeline is much shorter than we might have even thought a year ago.
Okay, thanks for that, Wolf. Do you have any suggestions for how this committee can work to address some of those changing elements of the transportation space and what we can do to help the city prepare for that? Any suggestions on how to do that?
Well, Keenan, as you know, I have many, but that would probably occupy an entire meeting. I think the point here is just that as we're having various discussions on, bicycles and other modes of transportation, and how do those discussions dovetail into the bigger picture, that we're cognizant that the bigger picture might look a little different than what we initially expected. So that's really just the point for today, and I'll keep contributing as we get into specifics on particular modes of transportation or particular initiatives.
Okay, thank you. Any more thoughts from committee members, either on what Wilf just brought to us, or on the idea of a work plan and how the committee wants to spend the next 2 years of our term? Sherry?
Thank you, Keenan. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at the draft that was put together. I don't know, quite a long time ago, it seems. I think that we've been busy with a lot of sort of reacting to things, and that certainly has occupied our agendas. But I think it's important for us to think, and maybe the work plan, if we do proceed with it, just needs to be simplified, but to think a little bit more about being proactive and sort of looking at where we're sort of gapping on something that's sort of critical to our sort of entire mandate here, because I think we can get caught up in the weeds, so to speak, with all of our reacting to all the different scenarios, and getting close toward the end of our term might be looking back and thinking we should have been a little bit more proactive on this piece. So my suggestion, I guess, at this point in time is if the committee members could just take a bit of time to look at the draft work plan and to think critically about, you know, how can we simplify that given the amount of time we have left and the busyness of our agendas, generally speaking. But just pull out what's the priority sort of piece in there or pieces in that work plan that we really want to pay some attention to, given the things that Wilf has just identified, the things Al's mentioned, etc. And I guess that's what I'm encouraging, is for us to be a little bit more critical about our approach and looking for gaps and opportunities that we'll lose sight of if we just get caught up in reacting to everything. So just my thoughts there.
That's a great suggestion. And I know we had talked about, keeping the work plan as sort of a running agenda item, so we can always keep focused on, what we're doing moving forward. So I like that suggestion, and maybe what we can do is have committee members, we'll send out the draft work plan again, and then maybe everyone can take a look over the holidays, and then at the January meeting we can have an item. Maybe each committee member can bring 2 or 3 priority items that they would like to see the committee focus on for the rest of our term, and from there we can sort of narrow our focus on sort of the key areas that the committee members feel strongly about. How does that sound as a plan? John, I see your hand.
Yeah, I think it's great to kind of have a plan. My thought was that maybe if we could have it as everyone provides their priority list, like on like a ranked ballot kind of thing. Everyone says, here's my priority list of it. So, and then if we pull it together, we can see, okay, yeah, this is the highest priority for everyone, or just my idea on, rather than just identifying it 1 or 2, saying we can add them in. But if we get a full list, then we can say, here's our full list of items that we think we want to work on. If everyone can put it into the priority list, the priority order they think it is in, and then if we can kind of keep it on that as a committee, saying here's our priority list, and maybe have it. Some of them might have deadlines to them, but that way we can kind of say, this is still what we're focusing on, or we think we need to shift it around a little bit. So just my thoughts here.
Great idea, and do you know what? I'll spend some time creating a survey monkey using the draft work plan. And so that we can give the opportunity to committee members to sort of rank all those items, and then I can send that out in advance of the January meeting. How does that sound, John?
Yeah, I think that's great. Should we want to set a deadline for when we want to add new items to it? Like if we say, if we've got a new item, let's add in, so we've got the inclusive list, and then once we get that list, then we can say, this is our list. What's the ranking of it?
Sure, yeah, that works. So how about we, before the holidays, if we have any specific items that we see are missing from the work plan, then you can send that to myself or Tara. So we'll make sure to resend that draft work plan. So before the holidays, if we can have those items in, and then over the holidays, I can put together a survey monkey, and then we can all have a chance to respond to that over the holidays in advance of our January meeting. How does that sound? Good. All right, perfect. Any other thoughts on the committee work plan? All right, so next item is the website. So we did get an answer about who's the staff member who's in charge of the website. So it's Brett Greatrix in the engineering department, I think, something like that.
He's in development services now.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's changing all the time. I'm losing track. So he says we don't have any dedicated resources directed at managing the website. So any input or suggestions in terms of content or improvements would be greatly appreciated if we can send those to him. And he said he'll take back the recommendations, review, and incorporate any suggestions into the website and report back if there are any issues. So some notes that I had from the previous meeting in terms of things we'd like to see on the website. One thing we had talked about was a potential way for members of the public to request a delegation to the committee, say if they have like a specific traffic issue or specific environmental issue that they'd like to actually come talk to us about. Maybe we can have a link or a submission form or an email that they can reach out and request a delegation. We had talked about potentially making the website more visual to look more a bit like the transit page, where there's some visual buttons with categories. We had talked about the rules of the road and maybe some education around that. How active transportation users should be acting when they're out on our streets, and then some suggestions about maybe some general benefits of active transportation to try to convince people to take it up. What are the health, environmental, economic benefits of active transportation? Are there any other sort of suggestions from committee members on items they would like to see on the website, or anyone who's willing to compile any of that information and send it over so we can pass that on to Brett? Any thoughts on that? Anne-Marie, go ahead. Welcome.
Thanks. And I think Wilf has also raised his hand on the chat too. So just in case you didn't see that, but a couple of things come to mind. And I'm not sure if it's just around pulling them into certain levels of pages if they already exist. But when we've also talked about identification around pedestrianization, a mapping of where are the existing bike racks? How do we support individuals to plan for active transportation? Is there a nice mapping of where we've seen, especially in the past year, there's been some great infrastructure where we've seen bike lanes added and some of our routes connected. So is there an area where we can actually map both where we're seeing formalized bike lanes as well as bike racks, and might also help us to identify how do we support and enable connectedness, and also within individuals if they're going out for a ride to plan a route or maybe to extend that route. So it might also be helpful to council as a whole to look at then where this might be missing or where there might be some natural connections where we might want to extend. I'll leave that to the staff expertise, but I would say I'm seeing some new bike racks since we had conversations with the BIA downtown. And I'm looking at that in particular, but perhaps there's more of a strategic approach to where we're seeing natural spots for people to rest or stop or plan a ride.
That's great, Anne-Marie. And I remember Brett had actually talked about potentially working with the GIS department, the mapping techie stuff at the city, and getting some active transportation maps going, whether it's the infrastructure itself, the bike lane, and then maybe I can talk to him about the racks too. That's a great suggestion. So that's something I'll bring to Brett. Wilf, I see your hand.
Works better if I unmute first. Sorry about that. So just on the soapbox for this month, with the concept of this is moving quickly. The public isn't really aware of, I think in general, of the speed at which the shift in transportation modes is happening. So I think it would be great to have a bit of an education piece there to just get people talking, to say, this concept that I've got a fuel efficient car, and that's the way I get around Barrie, and that's the way I'll get around Barrie in 10 years, just to get them start thinking that, oh, wait a minute, that there maybe is another way. And in fact, it's happening globally and it's happening really quickly. And then the thread there is that this committee and this city is embracing that and is aware of that and is looking forward to accommodate that shift that is inevitable, so that we take away that, oh gosh, maybe this will happen someday concept to it is happening and we're on top of it and we're doing something about it. And we've got some great people talking about it to make sure the city is going to address what transportation looks like in years to come.
That's great, Wolf. Wondering if you would be interested in putting together maybe some links to information that might be relevant, or a short little blurb or something like that, and then I can get Brett to actually put that on the web page. Is that something you'd be able to do? It sounds like you have a lot of knowledge on that area.
Yeah, I would, Keenan. I wonder though, if like rather than me just coming up with my vision, whether it might make sense to have a working group that kind of brings together the things we're talking about. And I'm happy to contribute to that. As a team, rather than just here's my vision or my thoughts. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Yeah. And I see Sherry's hand. She might have some thoughts on this specific area.
Yes, I agree with that, Wilf. I was thinking in terms of our work plan, this could be obviously an item that we highlight as a priority on our work plan and establish a couple of, small 2 or 3, 4 people or whatever to come up with some recommendations and content and bring it back to the committee for some decision making. In addition to what Anne Marie has suggested around the mapping, I know we had talked about that before. There are some other municipalities who currently have mapping around active transportation routes, like general average times to get from one place to the other, the kinds of amenities that are there, benches connected with transportation, rest areas, water fountains, washrooms. The other kind of thing that we can also be looking at for our website content is what other kinds of programs are in existence in the community that support people to make those choices. So active school travel program, how do I get involved in that? Workplace commuting programs. Anything we can do to educate but also facilitate people to make that choice. I think that would be an excellent way to sort of put information out there and support the community to make those decisions. So I would think this could be something that would be a work plan item and a small group to sort of lead that. Just my thoughts. Thank you.
That's a great plan. I see John's hand.
Great. Thanks. Yeah, I think this website is a really key part for us going forward. I think it's great that Brett's going to be the one we're sending the stuff to. I don't think we're quite ready yet. I think kind of what Sherry's saying, I think we need to kind of put this on further, because I really, again, I think if we can get kind of a list of items, of the high level items that we think we need to have, buttons or whatever it is on the website, and then from there we can kind of populate those through it and kind of categorize the stuff where we think is going to be into there, because I think there's so much great stuff that we need to have on here. Yeah, whether or not you're coming on to see even the stuff we've already discussed here, viewing a map from a utilitarian perspective, if someone comes on and says, I need to get to work, what stuff is available to get me to work, compared to someone getting on there and saying, hey, I want to know what I can, where some cool places to bike in Barrie and my end, whereas I see those as being two different things, but both equally as important. So yeah, I think there's lots of great stuff. I think we need to kind of spend some time on this myself. I think we need to make sure we get it right when we put it back up there. And yeah, lots of items. One other item, since we're kind of throwing stuff out there right now, that I thought might be good to have on there as well is if you need a bike, there are, Firebird's great local resource, stuff like that to say, if you're coming on the website and if you need a bike, talking about bike share. I know we're not quite at the point where we're getting to bike share yet, but Firebird or something else, perhaps we're able to promote that sort of thing, or something new. Yeah.
Great suggestion. Anne Marie?
Thanks. And sorry I jumped in partway through. I was transitioning from another meeting. But John, when I started into this, I think I caught some conversation. So forgive me if you already have a next step about collecting. I mean, an effort to kind of move this forward, I'd be happy to send out a personal SurveyMonkey link or some open options for this group, if that seemed to be like a reasonable approach. Hearing Wilf have some comments about resources and links about if that's an area to collect information and then bring that to a small group, or if there's a different idea, but happy to issue something even this week to the group around an area to deposit ideas on different items. And then I'd be happy to join a small group around maybe website design and links and Another thing that comes to mind is also those natural things that kind of cross-pollinate into other areas. So as Sherry was talking about, some of those comments about the active school travel program, and I'm thinking carpooling, but also features. So tall trees, like where do we have really unique areas within the city that people might naturally, come upon unless you're moving into certain subdivisions or neighborhoods. And I'm also wondering about, is there a conversation to be had with our Communities in Bloom program? Is there a studio tour? Is there something where we actually want to promote when we're building assets on our website about certain points in time in the year that we've got other programs to showcase? And so, would we engage Mona as a city staff member in the Communities in Bloom program to talk a bit about, are there features when we're identifying individuals around gardens that we actually want to be inviting and encouraging routes in order to visit some prime areas where residents have done gardening features? So just a thought, but around, how do we also accentuate other programs?
Yeah, absolutely. Great suggestions. So it sounds like you have some interest in getting a small group together to do some work on this. That's awesome. So sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you say you would like to do a Survey Monkey before that small group gets together? After, like, how are you thinking in terms of engaging the whole community?
I'll look to the group. I'm offering, I can unleash to the members here some open survey boxes. If it becomes a repository for initial thoughts, concepts, links, resources, and then perhaps we can move that as an initial conversation around an inventory of ideas. And it might help us to look at theming or a skeleton of content and not losing any ideas from the larger collective group, but without pulling you all into a committee meeting. And then at least maybe it's an approach for it to be reflective of anyone that has ideas, and we can build from there and talk a bit about then how that committee moves and engages around feedback or comes back with a skeleton of ideas that can then be bolstered.
Okay, that's great. Wilf, I see your hand.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Keenan. So Anne Marie and John, I think, raised some great ideas that just as we're talking about this, my mind is whirring on exciting things that we could put up on this website. It'd be great resources for the citizens of Barrie. My question, Keenan, would be, can we get some kind of framework or budget so that as we're thinking outside of the box, we we actually have some dotted lines that we can think within, and we build something that's within what the city's willing to spend?
Well, I would say we probably don't have a budget.
Well, so much for this idea. What's next on the agenda, Keenan?
Yeah, it's so it sounds like Brett is willing to put up content for us as long as we sort of put it together and hand it off to him. But it doesn't sound like there's dedicated resources to doing this at the moment, and that'd be something we'd probably have to get direction to staff on if we wanted to pursue.
Do we want to, and are we allowed to fundraise for something like this?
Potentially. Tara, I see you popped up on camera, so I don't know if
Yeah, we don't have budget. Yeah, that would be something that we would have to look at. But with the budget going in January and everything, I'm not sure that would be something on the shelf right now.
And John, I saw your hand, and then I see Sherry after that.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if talking to maybe pulling in Mike McConnell if he's there, because his website's, or the transit website's so great. Is that stuff that you guys did yourselves, Michael? Or
good question. That was before my time when that was actually created. I know we upkeep it, but I don't know the initial implementation.
So, but you guys are upkeeping it. Like, I mean, there's obviously COVID changes that was on there recently, and it's you guys kind of stay on top of it. And seems to be lots of updated stuff there, but you're just kind of maintaining yourselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
correct.
Tara, all the departments do. Yeah.
Yeah, Tara, did you know who initially created that website?
For active transportation?
For transit.
For transit? I would assume it probably went through communications, but
yeah. Okay.
Since it is, like that all falls under Rebecca. So.
Okay, Sherry, I saw your hand. I don't know if you had thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of existing sort of program information and links to resources and things that are already out there that don't require a budget necessarily. I'm not sure, Wilf, if you had something specific in mind in terms of the requirements for dollars for website development. I mean, there could be some sort of GIS mapping costs or whatever that might be associated with the mapping piece, but I'm not sure but I feel that there's enough out there already to sort of take an approach without a budget and start revamping content and making links to existing sort of programs and services or resources and information. So I wouldn't want that to be a barrier for us to move it forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I hear that. I think there's lots of opportunity as well. Anne-Marie?
Would we look to see this as maybe a phased approach around, identifying content and then maybe exploring current functionality of the website? And then whatever doesn't fit, we can then have a bit more specific conversation about, is it department specific, i.e. GIS, that we're asking to fit into maybe some work effort one-off, or is it something more robust about an added functionality that could be built into our website infrastructure over time? So hoping it doesn't slow us down, but maybe it is a phased approach to looking at how we move with the content that we desire and then start building it out.
Yeah, I think that's a great plan. So Anne-Marie, if you're kind of willing to take the lead on that, would you like any committee members to reach out to you, or are you going to reach out with a survey? Like, how did you want to proceed?
Whatever's easiest, and I don't necessarily need to lead it, but I am interested. So if someone that wants to facilitate this, for sure. If not, I'm all in. So let me know who wants to join me, and then maybe to clarify two things. Is this group satisfied with not waiting for the small group to get together, but do you want me to send something out to at least start gathering some of your intelligence around links, resources, what's top of mind, while we're setting up a meeting with those that might be interested. So if people don't feel that's premature, then I would just say kind of step one, I'm happy to do that, to start facilitating information in. That's maybe I send it out today, so it's happening soon after this conversation. And then step two is, by all means, reach out to me, or if it's most convenient, because I'm a bit of a newer member, if you don't have ease of access, I should be in the distribution. But Tara, do you want that to go through you, or do you want them to come directly to me? Any preference on process?
Okay.
Happy to streamline it. Yeah, just let me know.
My only caution is that if you have a certain amount of people, you could possibly have quorum, and then it would have to be an actual meeting. So you have to be a small group. So
is there a guideline for, is that a 3 to 4?
Yes, that would be, yeah, definitely. Okay. And I can assist, but
sorry.
No, it's okay. But yeah, the distribution list, if you have certain amounts, and then you can just report back to the committee with it. So
just so we're not hitting a tipping point that I might have some ignorance about, is a cap of 4 with us being able to remain a small group, or is it a different number that we need to be mindful of?
I think we're fine with 3 to 4, but I'll double check because we're still missing one active transportation member as well. So I think we're fine with 3 to 4, but I will double check.
Okay. So that sounds like a good first step, maybe some intelligence gathering if you want to send something out to the whole committee, and we can start compiling those ideas if committee members are cool with that approach.
So if you're good, I'll create that bit of an open box survey. I'll send it through Tara to the group, and then ask you to identify directly.
Or you can just, if you could just include me or CC, right. And then I'm in the loop, that's fine too.
Okay, so watch for that to come from me today, and then reach out and we'll set up a meeting with a handful of us that are interested.
That's great. That's a good first step. Thank you, Anne-Marie. And I also did, I got a text from the fabulous Rob Meyer, who we miss very much on this committee. And I actually meant to send him a Zoom link so he could appear on the committee, but I forgot to. So sorry, Rob. But he suggested that we consider asking the GIS staff at the city to come to the next meeting to sort of have a conversation about what sort of mapping tools are available, what specific active transportation map layers they can incorporate into their technology. So we can do that for the January meeting, hopefully, and arrange that. So I've made a note of that. Thanks for that, Rob. He's probably the only person watching at home. So okay, so next item, if we're okay to move on. Okay, we do want to talk about, okay, so I think we'll throw it over to Anne-Marie actually right now. She's an item that it was supposed to be on the agenda, but didn't make it on somewhere in the technology. It got lost, but Anne-Marie has an item about a specific issue in Ward 3 that she would like to talk about and have a conversation with the committee about. So go ahead, Anne-Marie, if you'd like to bring that.
Thank you. Issue or opportunity? So apologies if this comes as a bit of a blind spot. So I'll raise it for discussion, and we'll see if we get to a place where this committee feels it's something that you would motion or consider a motion either today or in the future. I've had the great pleasure of connecting with city staff, and particularly the Kevins, if I can call you the Kevins, Kevin Rankin and Kevin Bradley. Oh, there's Kevin Bradley. So I will, by all means, don't let me misrepresent you or the conversations we've had to date, and step in as you like. And maybe after I share a bit of this, if either of you would like to, by all means, I'd like to leave space for you to comment. The context of the conversation is really about the naturalization of Crompton. So it does fall into my ward personally, but it is an area of green space. And I've also been connecting with the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority. And as well as living green and kind of dabbling in the concept of how do we enhance, protect, continue to enjoy quite a lovely space here. One that we're already seeing some really great opportunities, some trail paths that kind of exist, a wooded area, but also a lot of natural pollinators in the space, an area that deer are coming into. And I'm personally interested in looking at, how do we add some aspects to this? I'd love for it to be a bit more structured to ensure we're doing some more formal engagement. So anything from, ideas about a wellness walk and engaging some members of our health sector community and health unit, but also around maybe some signage and some aspects there, maybe some fruit trees and conversations about a food forest, or just an area that can facilitate a wellness walk, hypothetically, a 15 to 20-minute walk with cues, inviting individuals to take some stops, be reflective, and enjoy that space. So right now, there's been lots of really interesting conversations about, what currently exists and just how can we bolster it without really changing the dynamic there too much, and it being an invitation for individuals to visit. There's been some invasive frag management there that almost lends itself to at least supporting any parking that may occur without it being on road, and the potential also to have some bike racks there. And it is a high traffic area right now within that resident community. That would be an important stakeholder to be engaging. But it would be, to my understanding, the history of engagement with residents was supportive of that area staying as a naturalized space. And so it would really just be formalizing a bit more of an invitation to come into that area, to walk through that area, and to enjoy some of the natural features. I'll leave it there. I'm not sure, Kevin Rankin and Kevin Bradley, if you're comfortable commenting, but my initial understanding was that this might be the appropriate committee of council to have a conversation about if it becomes a short-term subcommittee like that of I believe South Shore, was it South Shore? And if anyone had comments about learnings about how that worked, but I am hoping to even look at, how are we engaging our Indigenous stakeholders and actually looking at broader opportunities for the space. That doesn't come at a great expense, but might just inherently allow us to leverage grants or other opportunities and some of our community not-for-profit agencies that are focused in this area. So a concept, awesome. I'll leave it for comment.
That sounds like a great opportunity. And yes, we did. So the Allendale Station Park naturalization plan had a subcommittee that Al led with, I believe it was, I don't even know if there were any other committee members on it. I think it was just him and members in the community that worked on that. They came up with a report, worked a bit with staff, reported back to this committee and had some recommendations that then moved on to council. So maybe we can follow that model. I see Kevin Bradley is unmuted, so I'll go to him. Take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Councillor Kungl. Yeah, the only, so we walked, I think it was 2 Fridays ago, and I think the only comment I would offer to the committee is that just being conscious of limited staff resources. I know you hear that a lot, but there's so many layers to this site, even though it's not very large. Kevin comment on the hectarage. But all the amazing things that Councillor Kungl was just talking about involve so many different players and expertise we need on this site. So that's why we had suggested the subcommittee approach to Councillor Kungl, so that we could bring in, you know, forestry bathing experts from one conservation authority, environmental experts from another conservation authority, some of the people from the bugs community that have interests with respect to health and wellness, that natural environments. It's more than what staff could come back with kind of where we are today. So that's what we were hoping, is that we could leverage this committee to bring kind of a working group of like minds together, and then staff would be there to help and guide and support, I think would be our role, and then to help you with an implementation plan and, you know, what budgets could look like. But at least this group then could also look at bringing in partners that could apply for funding perhaps that we never could. Living Green, Urban Pantry, the Health Unit, and others. And it, in my mind, it almost becomes a little bit bigger than what we're doing at Allendale Station Park, and could become a model for pilots, like a template that we could repeat in other areas like this. Instead of staff, you know, we're always kind of reacting to these ideas, but maybe it's something that's repeatable. And we can monitor it and test it for success and things. So that's why we had suggested another subcommittee. Thank you.
That's great. Sounds like a great plan. So in terms,
Keenan, question?
Oh yeah, go ahead, Al. Yeah.
Yeah, just experience with the Allendale Station Park model was that I think that can, you know, that can work. It certainly seems to have got us dealing with, you know, moving ahead pre-COVID, of course. Just a quick question. Crompton Park is just off to the west of Little Lake, correct? Okay. Is it part of the, this is sort of to the two Kevins, is it part of the Little Lake Parklands Management Plan, or is it a separate item?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Al. It is part of the Little Lake Master Plan. And there is we'll call it a conceptual sketch, nothing really more, that shows some high level types of uses and kind of for the area, Al, that was approved by council at the time, including some of the elements that Councillor Kungl had referenced, such as parking, you know, pavilion, shaded seating areas, a loop path systems, naturalization and things like that. But it's not very detailed. There's just some sketches of what kind of to show design intent, really.
Great, thanks, Kevin. I was just curious as to whether it's and if you have any thoughts, I'd be happy to hear them, whether it makes sense to just look at Crompton or to be looking at it as part of the overall picture for Little Lake, because I think there's a from the environmental protection perspective, it's real easy to just sort of look at a piece of something and try and, okay, well, we can do this and we can do that and we can do something else, and you can lose sight of the overall picture for the lake. And one of the great things about Little Lake is that because of fortuitous action by councils some decades ago, the city owns lands that aren't even in the city that are around Little Lake, and so the little bit of private land that's on there on the south side is facing considerably more development, physical construction, but the majority of the Little Lake waterfront is in public ownership and isn't going to be developed. And the golf course, of course, is a kind of separate piece on that. So just wondering whether if we had a subcommittee on that, should it be just looking at Crompton Park, or should it be looking at Little Lake and revisiting that master plan? And that's not an instant process to do that kind of rethinking. But again, Kevin mentioned about bringing in expertise from the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority or whatever. Holistic approach on the thing, I think, might be a really a good way to approach it.
Yeah, great suggestion, Al. I see Avery, you've unmuted. I don't know if you had a response to that suggestion.
And well, I'm nodding because Al, you bring up a great piece and one that I've considered. So Little Lake is also an area of focus for me. And I'll look to staff maybe to comment about their impression. The holistic approach is absolutely, I think, I'm aligned to your comments. I think I narrowed it to Crompton for this initial conversation because that might be more of a short-term ability to move forward, but without dissecting it from a holistic approach, I think Little Lake is something I'm having conversations on and might be a longer-term piece to look at that might, I didn't want it to necessarily distract or become so large in scope that it wasn't something that we could focus on Crompton and look at some of those more immediate pieces we might be able to move forward within the next year around engagement, some concept pieces, and then looking at moving it forward. So by all means, not sure how to structure it, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to not necessarily get caught up in some of the longer term pieces with Little Lake overall, and holding off on Crompton.
Okay.
But again, I'm green at this, so I'll take your directions.
Okay, thanks, Anne-Marie. Just cognizant of the time, we're near the end of the meeting, and we do have one item after this, but I do have Sherry next on the list, and I want to give everyone a chance to have their say on this for sure. Go ahead, Sherry.
Okay, thank you. Just very quickly, that Crompton area is close to my health unit workplace, and it sounds like a lovely plan, a place I could walk to, and spend some time on my lunch hour. I'm not very familiar with the Crompton space that you're speaking about, but I guess I was just reflecting on Kevin Bradley's comments at the last meeting around looking at parks overall in a sort of a systems approach. And I know that your sort of visions for this, it sounds like sort of animating and programming sort of the space. Anne-Marie, is I think what I'm sort of hearing from your comments, community engagement, animation, programming. But I sort of, I'm just thinking about beyond this, if it's sort of seen as a sort of a test, what this could look like more broadly in sort of a systematic way across the board, if we're looking at sort of the broader approach to parks and green space, and what the overall plan would be to do that more comprehensively across the city. So, and then of course, community needs and engagement, like how do we recognize what the space would be useful for, like based on community needs and interests. So like there's just a lot of things going through my mind right now, but just wanted to share those thoughts and look forward to hearing more about this. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Sherry. So I'll just ask Tara, do we need to actually formally pass a motion to strike a subcommittee? I don't remember what we did with the Allendale station lands.
Sorry, my button doesn't want to work for some reason today. No, we don't need a motion. we can just that the committee agrees that to create a subcommittee, and that was it. That's all we did last time too.
Perfect. So that sounds like a good way forward. I do see Kevin Rankin's hand, so I want to go to him next.
Thank you. Just through you, Mr. Chair, just one comment. Both Al McNair and I were involved in the development of the Little Lake Master Plan 15-ish years ago. I'm sure Al recalls it. And I think all the great ideas that Councillor Kungle has put forward all fit within the context of that parcel on Crompton, all the different ideas. Nothing is outside of that. It's not like something that would be from left field that didn't fit within those guides of the master plan.
That's
sorry,
great.
Kevin, I couldn't hear your comments very clearly there. Sorry.
Sorry, just giving them context that the information that and the require suggestions that have been made for the development of that parcel aren't outside of what the original master plan was calling for.
Sounds like a good fit. Okay, so Anne Marie, are you you have a subcommittee, so sounds like do you have what you need from us?
I guess I'll just check in if there's concerns. But I want to acknowledge that this might feel very abstract if people have not visited the space, and would invite you to do so or connect with me, and I'm happy to walk it with you. I don't want to preempt the group's, support to this. I think buy-in and awareness is important. So I just want to check in if the group is comfortable, at least with the concept of a subcommittee. I can come back maybe with a bit more of a structure around scope, so you're clear about what the intention is and conversations. And right now, I think the first step is really to expand out some conversations we're having, and to do that with a little bit more support and structure, but to not make any decisions, and then to come back with the group and, of course, explain how this fits into plans that Kevin and Al have spoken about, but also maybe sharing back some opportunities. But I guess I just pause and want to do a check-in to say thank you for the freedom of identifying I might have a subcommittee, but I do want to make sure that if there's any concerns, if people want to wait, I can bring this back, to the next meeting if you want to wait and take time to visit the space and feel more informed.
Any thoughts from committee members on that?
I think
go ahead.
Keenan, either myself or someone else from NatureBerry would definitely want to be involved in that process.
That's awesome. That's a great resource.
That's great.
So, anyone else in the committee have any thoughts? I mean, personally, I'm excited about the possibilities there. John, was that a hand? Okay.
Yeah, I just want to echo those comments. Yeah, I think move forward. I don't think we need to kind of slow it down at all. Let's go with it.
Okay, perfect. So
do
you have what you need from us, Anne Marie?
I do, and I'd say reach out. Let's go for a walk if you want to see it. Happy to talk about that and do feel part of this. But if you're interested, give me a tap. Tara, let me know if we have talked about a subcommittee. So I'm assuming there's no guideline on numbers, but I'll look to you offline if there's anything I should appreciate. And Al, you're on my list. So this is great. And maybe I can at least let you know how things are moving forward at the next meeting.
Awesome. Yeah, we can have it as a sort of a standing item on the agenda for regular updates. Awesome. Exciting. Okay. Oh shit, I'm muted.
Yeah.
Sorry. So 7 minutes. Let's do this. 6 minutes now. So the urban forestry report that the memo we got back from staff. Some interesting details in there. Are there any thoughts from committee members on the memo? Any questions for staff? I see Claire is here, who had originally brought the motion to us. Any thoughts? Questions, concerns, actions we would like to take, or are we satisfied with what was outlined in the report? It sounds like a lot is happening on the urban tree canopy front, which is great. And thank you so much to staff for preparing that.
Keenan, Could I ask a question of Kevin on this? It looks pretty clear that one thing on there, I think it's on the second page, that we should be. Looks pretty clear that we should be spending more on the tree planting. Essentially, we've got a structure in place to do the kind of management that Claire Ripma was looking for, I think. But it looks like council needs to budget more money for it, because then we can be doing, we can meet the standard that I think your report identifies should be what we're shooting for.
All right, Al, are you referring to the, I guess it's action item 6.7 in the climate change adaptation strategy, which is the tree maintenance budget, estimated at $58,000 per year? That's what you're referring to?
Yeah, I think that's the one. I put some highlights on this thing before I printed it out, and now I can't find the specific part of it. But that was the one that that sort of struck me and said, "Hey, we could be meeting on that maintenance program. We could be meeting that standard, but we need to be spending some additional fund. The city needs to be budgeting some additional funds on that." And particularly from the climate change perspective of how how healthy that our urban forest is, I think that's we've got three council members actually at the moment in this meeting, and I would hope that all three of you would be pushing for that sort of thing in your budget deliberations. I know it's going to be hell this year, but that's still, and that also fits just recovery, folks.
For sure. So Al, a suggestion here. I mean, we could actually pass a motion at the committee supporting, having these additional resources for implementing this action item in the climate adaptation strategy as part of the 2021 business plan and budget. So if there's a desire from the committee to do that, then, and if there are no concerns from staff in terms of that direction, then I would ask for a mover, someone who's willing to move.
I will move that.
Eric? Okay, that's great. So let's be clear on the wording, I guess. So that the additional resources for implementing action item 6.7 of the climate change adaptation strategy be included in the 2021 business plan and budget. How does that sound, Tara, in terms of wording? Does that work?
So far, so good. Yep.
Okay. Great. Are there any other comments or questions from members of the committee, or should we bring it to a vote?
Keenan, I was just wondering if, since Claire brought this to our attention, whether he has any observations on the proposed motion.
He might be on another meeting, but so we'll see if he's available to chime in. But
he's right here. Yeah.
Oh, there
I'm pulled in a number of different directions, but I'm here. Yeah, no, I'm very supportive of that. I think that, if we can, hey, if we're going to do better with our trees, we should just need a little more money, and we need to do a bit more work. So I'm happy to be supportive of that. I think there's not quite a number of other things that we could be doing as far as the urban canopy. I would certainly like to see us in our official plan move to a 40% target. I think that that's a move forward. And I think that, we're already in some wards, we're already there, but in a lot in the city overall, we're not. And I think we should be striving towards that. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm very supportive of anything that you can do to improve our trees in the city.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I think this is a good sort of first step.
Sherry and I will make a note of that one for our deliberations on our official plan comments.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you, Al. Any other comments, questions, concerns before we bring this to a vote? Because we're at noon. Let's do this. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion?
Yes.
Eric? Tyler?
Yep.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, perfect. That's unanimous. So that passes, and that will be moving on to the City Building Committee agenda. I don't know when the next meeting is. Or
December 1st.
It's December 1st. I'm going to get all the minutes and everything so we can clear everything up.
Okay, that's perfect. All right. So we made it through that agenda in the nick of time. We do have an item about the meeting schedule. So just a reminder, we are switching to the first Tuesday of the month starting in January. So that takes us to January 5th. That's right, Tara?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, so awesome. Thanks, everyone. And oh, Sherry, I see your hand.
Just very quickly, will the time be the same for the meetings? Just so I can start to block these times off in my agenda. 10 to 12? Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, everyone.
so much, everyone.
Okay, bye now.
All right.
Thank you all. Merry